Our film begins with real events that occurred in America. 1925. We see Father Joseph praying, his face etched with extreme tension and fear. 9 days earlier, Father Joseph is at the church, speaking to everyone present. He tells them that the weapon of faith in God is what will protect them from Satan and his power. We learn that his brother passed away a few days prior, and he thanks everyone for their support and standing by him in this ordeal. Afterward, Father Joseph bids farewell to everyone leaving the church. A man named Chester offers his condolences. Inside the church, Father Joseph sees Sister Rose. He jokes with her and takes some of the food she's carrying. Then he goes to his office. A little later, the senior priest of the church, Edward, enters. Father Joseph greets him and kisses his hand. Father Edward then offers his condolences on his brother's death, and hands him a large, book-like file. Joseph opens it and sees that all the papers in the file belong to a girl named Emma Schmidt. It's clear she underwent psychological treatment, but is still suffering and hasn't been cured. Father Edward informs him that all the doctors tried to understand her condition, but there's no medical or even psychological reason for it. Her analyses and medical reports are completely normal. Therefore, they decided she must undergo the Holy Sacrament. Father Joseph is surprised because this means they will perform an exorcism. Father Edward then tells him that Father Theophilus, known for performing exorcisms, will be with him. Joseph wonders why Father Theophilus, who will perform the session, will be with him. At that moment, Father Edward surprises him by saying that the sessions will be held here, in his church, which is why he must be with Theophilus. Joseph tells Edward that he thinks psychological treatment is better than exorcism sessions because medicine has advanced, and there are many treatments for nervous and mental disorders. Father Edward interrupts him and tells him that the matter is settled. Emma's number and address are in the file, and they are waiting for his call. Furthermore, Emma is desperate and very ill, having suffered for years, and has tried all kinds of treatments to no avail. That night, Father Joseph reads Emma's file intently. He then contacts the authorities to arrange a car for Emma, informing them of her condition so they can be prepared. At that time, we see the nuns preparing the room where Emma will stay, looking anxious and tense. A short while later, Emma arrives at the church, and all the nuns are there to welcome her. Father Joseph then learns from one of the nuns that Emma is in her room, asleep. She says that as soon as Emma wakes up, they will prepare food for her. Joseph thanks her and tells her he will go get Father Theophilus. Father Joseph then goes to the church where Father Theophilus is staying. We learn that he is an elderly man. Joseph apologizes for not being there to greet him upon his arrival. Theophilus tells him they must prepare, because the devil will do everything possible to thwart their plans, and they must be ready for anything. Afterward, Father Joseph returns to the church with Father Theophilus, and they go together to the Mother Superior. She welcomes Father Theophilus, and tells him that she read Emma's file, and noticed some very disturbing behaviors, feeling it's more psychological than anything else. Father Theophilus replies, informing her that they will do their duty and try to avoid any further disturbances. He thanks her for opening the church to help those afflicted and asks for a team of 3 people to be present in the room during the sessions and assist with restraints and transfers. As for the priest, he is required to take notes on everything that happens to maintain an accurate chronological record of the phenomena and evidence. Father Theophilus continues, telling Father Joseph and the Mother Superior that they will begin the sessions at sunset and may temporarily stop if needed. At the same time, Sister Rose enters, carrying Emma's food tray. She is trembling and very afraid, telling Father Joseph that Emma refused to eat and was very violent, her voice strange and terrifying. Father Theophilus reveals that the food was blessed and consecrated, and asks Rose to change the food and not bless or consecrate it. Meanwhile, we see Emma sitting in her room, with many papers scattered on the floor. She appears anxious and thoughtful. Joseph enters at this moment and tells her that he is the parish priest and that they are happy to have her with them. Emma thanks him and says she is happy to meet him. Joseph then notices the papers on the floor and realizes they are letters from Emma to her mother. He asks her when she sends the letters, and Emma replies that she places them on her mother's grave because she is dead. Joseph picks up the letters and tidies the place. Emma then struggles to get up from her chair, limping as she walks, and sits on her bed, preparing for sleep. Father Joseph leaves her to sleep, but suddenly, he hears the sound of the table falling and finds the letter thrown on the floor again. The strange thing is that Emma is asleep in bed and hasn't moved, meaning she didn't do it. Afterward, Father Joseph goes to Father Theophilus, and talks to him about the restraints he mentioned for Emma, asking him to forgo them for now until they examine Emma as her problem might be psychological. Father Theophilus interrupts him and tells him that Emma's problem is not psychological, and that he can see this because it's his first time performing exorcism sessions. Therefore, restraints are very necessary. He tells him that if he is not convinced by his words he is free not to bring the restraints. Joseph thanks him and leaves. Father Theophilus then goes to Emma's room to check on her and confirms his suspicions. He sits with the nuns, with Father Joseph also present, and informs them that Emma is not in a normal state, and he confirmed this when he saw her. He explains that she is suffering from dehydration and malnutrition in addition to severe pain and torment. He asks them all to follow all his instructions and not to weaken, no matter how emotionally and physically painful it becomes, because the enemy's methods they will face are difficult and painful. He will lead them to sin and will do everything in his power to sow discord among them. Therefore, they must be united, cohesive, and connected, because they are God's army on earth, and their mission is to save one of his servants. Then comes the day of the first exorcism session. Anxiety and extreme fear are evident. Father Theophilus begins to prepare everything, opening the Bible and reading from it. Everyone is standing and present, also reading from the Bible. Father Joseph focuses on Emma to take notes on everything that happens to her during the session. At this moment, Emma begins to blink her eyes rapidly and closes them. Suddenly she has strong convulsions. Everyone is afraid, but Father Theophilus continues reading the Bible without stopping, despite Emma's loud screaming and suffering, to the point where her facial features begin to change, and she looks terrifying. Fear is visible on Sister Rose and Father Joseph, who is displeased with what is happening to Emma, and worried about her. At that moment, Father Theophilus throws holy water on Emma, and suddenly, she calms down and falls asleep. Theophilus asks the nuns to put Emma in bed and cover her well because she will get cold at night. He informs them that the first session is over. The nuns try to talk to Emma, but she is completely unconscious. Father Joseph helps the nuns lift Emma and put her on the bed. Afterward, Sister Rose is in her room, and the other nuns who were not in the session ask her about what happened, but she refuses to answer them and walks away, leaving them. But they understand from her facial expressions that it was terrifying and not easy. The next day, it's time for Emma's second session. Everyone is gathered in her room, reading from the Bible. Father Joseph is observing Emma intently to take notes. Suddenly, Emma has convulsions again, but this time they are more severe, to the point where they hear the sound of her neck bones breaking. Her facial features begin to change, and she looks strange. Suddenly, she calms down completely. Everyone is afraid, but Father Theophilus continues reading the Bible, because he understood that the demon possessing Emma had arrived and was with them. The demon makes Emma get up and move from the chair, making her approach Father Joseph to harass and tempt him. Everyone tries to move her away from Joseph. The demon then speaks through Emma's voice and asks Joseph if he will repent. Suddenly, the demon makes Emma look at Sister Rose and makes her pull her hair violently. Of course, because the demon controls Emma's body, it can make her pull off a part of Emma's hair with her hands. Rose is screaming from the severe pain, and what happened to her head, and she completely breaks down, crying from fear and terror. After the session, Father Joseph goes to Father Theophilus and asks him about what happened in the session, because the situation has become dangerous for all of them. Father Theophilus informs him that they must use restraints and tie Emma up, for her protection and theirs. He asks him to let Sister Rose recover and rest, and to bring another nun in her place. When he notices that Joseph is anxious and afraid, he reassures him that this is not his first time performing exorcism sessions, and that he knows what he is doing well because this is the only way to save and help Emma. Joseph then tells him that he hopes his words are true, and that they will indeed save Emma from the evil possessing her. Father Joseph then returns to his room, prays and supplicates. The next day, the Mother Superior speaks with Father Joseph to find out if there has been any progress with Emma. Joseph becomes anxious and asks her to ask Father Theophilus. At that moment, the Mother Superior reads in the doctor's report who treated Sister Rose, stating that a part of her scalp was completely severed. Afterward, Father Joseph goes to Sister Rose to check on her. We see her with her head bandaged and she tells Joseph that the doctor gave her some ointments for her wound. Joseph apologizes for what happened to her and feels guilty for rejecting the idea of restraints and tying Emma up. Rose replies, telling him that she knows Emma doesn't feel anything and that it was the devil who did this to her. She also tells him that she feels that what is happening to Emma and them is a punishment for something they did, and she blames herself for thinking that way, because she is a believer and knows that it is God's will. Joseph tells her that she shouldn't be upset about her feelings and that it's natural for humans to feel sadness and despair. Then, the third session with Emma begins. This time, Father Theophilus ties her to the bed, and a new nun joins them in place of Rose. As soon as the new nun sees Emma, she is very scared. Her colleague reassures her and asks her to be firm so they can all rest afterward. Father Theophilus begins reading the Bible. Emma then has convulsions, and the new nun is very scared by what she sees happening to Emma. But this time, the convulsions are more severe and Emma enters an epileptic-like seizure. A white substance comes out of her mouth and everyone tries to help her. Suddenly, Emma's appearance changes and both her eyes turn white. She remains fixed and doesn't move. Father Theophilus continues reading the Bible. At the same moment, the table moves from its place. The nuns become very scared. At that moment Theophilus speaks to the demon, and asks it to leave Emma's body. The demon speaks through Emma's voice and tells them that everyone in the room is full of sins. It screams a powerful and terrifying scream to the point where everyone covers their ears from its intensity. Afterward, we see Theophilus in the church and Father Joseph comes to him and they talk. Joseph says that what happened in Emma's last session was clearly an epileptic seizure and perhaps the doctors overlooked diagnosing this disease. But Theophilus assures him that it's not a disease and that everything is clear. He leaves and walks away. At night Father Joseph is asleep in his room. Suddenly, he wakes up startled because he hears a sound in the room. But he finds himself alone, and nothing has happened. The next day there is a mass in the church. Father Joseph is unfocused because all his thoughts are on Emma and what is happening to her. He keeps seeing her in front of him all the time. Then, the fourth session with Emma begins. She is tied to the bed, and everyone is around her, reading from the Bible. Suddenly, Emma's appearance is more terrifying than ever before. The demon speaks through her voice and tells Father Theophilus that he must remove the herb, and the nun with the rosary must throw it away immediately. The nun becomes very scared, because she actually has a rosary hidden. Theophilus asks the demon for its name, but it refuses to answer. At that moment, Father Theophilus places the cross on Emma's forehead and the demon burns, revealing its name as Mina. It warns Theophilus not to burn or harm it again, or it will make all their lives torment and hell. Suddenly, Emma vomits a black substance with a piece of an herb, which is the same herb the demon was talking about. After the session, we see Father Joseph in his room, stunned by what happened. At the same time, Father Theophilus is in his room, hearing a strange sound with him in the room. The next day, Joseph looks at the box containing his deceased brother's belongings. He focuses on his necklace and a framed picture of them when they were young. He places the picture on the shelf with the necklace on it. Then he goes to Emma's room with her food tray. He finds her asleep and unaware. He is surprised to find many papers next to her and discovers that she has written many words on these papers. He takes them all and goes to his room to read what is written on the papers and try to understand the words and their meanings. Sister Rose enters at this moment and sits with him. She is also surprised by the papers and that Emma wrote all of this. Afterward, it's time for the fifth exorcism session. When the nuns remove the blanket covering Emma, they are terrified by the sight of her body, which is covered in red and blue bruises. Father Joseph is shocked and doesn't want to do this session because Emma's condition has become very difficult and she might die. A doctor must see and treat her, but Theophilus refuses and informs him that the more they postpone the matter, the stronger the demon becomes, and that's what the demon wants. At that moment, it will not only possess Emma but also overcome all of them. Theophilus then asks Joseph to withdraw if he doesn't want to continue, and he will accept his withdrawal and won't blame him because he will continue all the sessions until he gets rid of the demon and saves Emma. Father Joseph remains silent. Theophilus begins to tie Emma's hands to the bed. He holds the Bible and reads from it. Suddenly, Emma gets up and sits, looking terrifying and silent. We learn that the demon is present now and speaks through Emma's voice, saying that it will make her soul rot until she slaughters herself like a pig. Father Theophilus asks it why it torments Emma and what it wants from her. At this moment, the lights go out, and everyone is afraid, especially the nuns. Theophilus asks them to be silent and speaks to the demon, asking it to tell him its name. At that moment, the bed's iron bends and Emma falls. The nuns try to help her, but one of them gets her hand caught under Emma's back and cannot free herself. She feels a terrible force pressing on her hand until it breaks. The nun screams in terror and pain. Father Joseph intervenes and decides to stop the session, asking everyone to leave the room. Afterward, Joseph speaks with Theophilus, and tells him that he cannot stand by and watch the nuns get hurt one after another because now one has a scalp injury, and the other has a broken hand, and he is not ready to see a third one get injured like them. Theophilus gets angry and asks him if he is blind and doesn't see, but Joseph tells him that Emma needs a doctor and a psychiatrist, not exorcism rituals. Theophilus informs him that all of this is happening because of their lack of faith, as this is what happened before in Frighting. Joseph is surprised and doesn't understand. At that moment, Theophilus tells him that frighting rituals happened with Emma and her mother when she was young. Father Joseph is shocked that Theophilus knows Emma and that this is not the first time he has seen her. He wonders why this information is not in Emma's file, and he should be aware of all the information. Theophilus asks him to sit down so he can tell him the story. He tells him that when Emma first went to Frighting, she was possessed by demons, and he and those with him tried to help her, but they weren't knowledgeable enough about the matter and left her as she was, handing her over to doctors to treat her. After a while, Emma sent him messages, reassuring him that she was fine and had completed her studies. However, the demons were cunning and deceptive, living in Emma's body all these years, waiting for the right moment to control and possess her. Father Joseph then asks him why they chose Emma specifically. Theophilus informs him that Emma is different and deeply sensitive and was affected by something from another world. Any weakness or involvement in the dark arts is a great opportunity for the devil to possess and control, and that's what he does with everyone because his mission is to make them abandon God and their faith in him. At the same time, Sister Rose notices bloodstains on Emma's room window. She opens the door and is shocked. Afterward, Father Joseph is reading Emma's file again and finds a torn paper with a note stating that among the shocks Emma faced was her father Jacob's illicit relationship with Mona, her mother's sister. Her father tried to involve her in magical rituals and gave her cursed and enchanted food. Then, Joseph goes to Emma's room after the nuns asked him to come. He is shocked to find the entire room covered in blood, and Emma is sitting on the floor unclothed, her body covered in wounds and bleeding. Everyone is in a state of extreme shock. Father Theophilus comes and covers Emma. Afterward, the Mother Superior sits with Father Joseph and Father Theophilus and tells them that it's clear they failed in the exorcism sessions, and she wants to stop the sessions immediately because everyone is in a state of panic and not sleeping. She decides to give them a deadline of only 1 week, and if they can't do anything with Emma, she will stop everything. Theophilus informs her that the devil does not have specific dates to leave. At that moment, the Mother Superior decides to move Emma to the cellar because it is better for her and them, and safer because the situation has become dangerous, and Emma has become a threat to all of them. She asks Theophilus to leave her with Father Joseph because she needs to talk to him. Theophilus leaves them. At that moment, the Mother Superior tells Father Joseph that he doesn't look well. Joseph is annoyed by her words and refuses to be under surveillance. He tells her that the church is his responsibility and he wants to solve the problem and protect everyone. Then the doctor comes and examines Emma and tells Father Joseph that Emma is suffering from dehydration and malnutrition, and the bruises on her body will disappear over time. He asks him to try to feed and hydrate her, and if they notice anything different about her again they must report it immediately. The next day, during Mass, Father Joseph is standing and talking to people in the church. At that moment, Emma enters among them and he becomes very anxious. After Mass ends, Joseph hears people talking, saying that there is evil in the church. Afterward, Father Edward comes and talks to Joseph about Emma's health condition. He learns that the doctor examined her and found no medical reason for what is happening to her, and taking her to the hospital will not help. Joseph breaks down and says that if Emma stays like this, she will die. Edward asks him to compose himself because the congregation shouldn't see him breaking down like this. Afterward, Sister Rose sits with Father Joseph and asks him if he has ever felt lonely. He replies despairingly, telling her that he doesn't know what to do or what to tell them. When he tries to place his hand on Rose's head to check on her wound, she becomes anxious and gets up. The day of the 6th session arrives. Everyone is present with Emma, reading from the Bible. Suddenly, terrifying sounds come out of Emma. The demon speaks through Emma's voice to Father Joseph and asks him if he wants to touch Rose because it knows he wants to have a relationship with her. Rose becomes scared and breaks down, leaving the session. The demon continues speaking and tells Joseph that there is a rope in the room for him to commit suicide like his brother and die like him. Joseph breaks down at this moment and asks Father Theophilus to stop the session because he cannot bear what is happening. He also leaves the session, but Theophilus continues the session and places his hand on Emma's head, reading from the Bible. At that moment, Emma has strong convulsions and vomits a black substance. Suddenly, with all her strength, she frees herself from the restraints and violently hits one of the nuns. She gets up from the bed and walks on the wall. The demon speaks to them and tells them that it will make them enjoy the kingdom of hell. At that moment, Theophilus keeps calling out to Emma to control her mind and body. She faints, and Theophilus helps her. After the session, the Mother Superior is in her room, praying. Suddenly, she finds her room door opening and hears a strange sound. At the same time, Father Theophilus sees the demon in front of him in his room and speaks with it, telling him that Emma's suffering will be his fault, and if he continues what he is doing, his days on earth will be numbered. At that moment, one of the nuns sees Sister Rose standing in front of the bathroom mirror, not moving. Suddenly the mirror breaks. At that moment Father Joseph hears sounds in his room and is terrified when he finds the mirror suddenly broken. He is even more terrified when he sees Emma in front of him and realizes he is imagining things. Suddenly, he looks at his hand and finds something moving under his skin. He is scared and grabs a knife to see what is under his skin. He is breaking down. The next day, Joseph goes to Theophilus, and tells him, breaking down, that he can't sleep, eat, or think and doesn't understand how Emma knew his brother committed suicide, and that he was sad and suffering. Theophilus tries to calm him down, and tells him that it's the devil's mission to make them distracted, unable to think, and doubt God. He tells him that when his sister died from the plague, his whole family felt sad, and some of them gave up, but he decided to turn his sadness into good by helping others like Emma. He tells him that he and the nuns are great warriors and are carrying out God's commands with their faith, which is their strongest weapon. Afterward, we see Emma crying and trying to drink water, but she can't hold the cup. She breaks down and screams, breaking things around her. The next day, Theophilus sits with Emma in the church garden, and she asks him to take the letters she wrote to her mother and place them on her grave. He tells her that she will recover and put the letters on her mother's grave herself, but Emma replies and tells him that the demon is deep inside her and there is no hope. She tells him that she owes him. Afterward, Theophilus gathers everyone and informs them that tonight they will not stop the session because if they allow the demon to recover, they will lose Emma forever. He asks them to eat well, drink and rest so they can be steadfast and able to face evil. Father Joseph prepares and puts on his brother's necklace. Then, the session begins, and everyone is present. Father Theophilus reads the Bible. Suddenly, the demon speaks through Emma's voice and pretends to be the grandmother of one of the nuns. The nun cries, but Theophilus asks her to remain firm and not believe the demon. At the same moment, the demon moves the bed towards the nun and hits her. He grabs Father Theophilus and tells him that he will be the cause of everyone's suffering, and they will scream one after another. A little later, the Mother Superior comes and sits next to Emma. But the demon appears and talks to her, asking her how she accepted the nuns to suffer. She replies firmly and without fear, telling him that they are stronger than him. Afterward, everyone is surprised that Emma has freed herself from the restraints and disappeared. Father Joseph realizes she is in the catacombs. Theophilus and Joseph begin to search for her, with Sister Rose accompanying them. At that moment, Theophilus hears someone calling him, telling him that he failed Emma. Joseph then finds Emma lying on the ground and asks Sister Rose to quickly call Theophilus. Theophilus comes with the rest of the nuns, and they discover that Emma is not breathing. Theophilus realizes that something is suffocating her and hits her on the back. Emma then vomits something strange from her mouth. Suddenly, she convulses and the demon speaks to them, telling them that Emma is now theirs. The entire place shakes. Father Theophilus begins to read from the Bible. Rose is then afraid of Emma's appearance and the convulsions she is having because she is flying in the air and making very strange sounds. Emma tries to approach Theophilus to grab the cross he has. Joseph takes the Bible and continues reading. A little later, Emma faints and then wakes up again, talking to Father Theophilus and laughing for the first time. He understands that the demon has finally surrendered and left her body, and they succeeded in saving her. The film's events end here. We learn that debate still surrounds the nature of Emma's condition, with some believing her suffering was psychological, and others believing she was truly possessed by demons. It is said that after these events she lived her life in peace. Father Joseph and Father Theophilus continued to practice their faith and help the possessed for years until they died. A report about Father Theophilus was published in Time magazine, and Joseph's notes were a source of inspiration for a large number of articles, books, films, and videos.
Miss was all 7 up in the future class.